Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and tell your friends. Consider joining the channel as well. So they have Ohio State as the best team in terms of the betting odds favorite to win it all. Kenny, I can't really see it that well, man. I'll be honest. I don't see K-State on there. I know they're on there somewhere. Kenny,
I can't.
Hold on. Let me try something else here. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can come up with something else that might look a little bit better, a little easier to look at. What do you think about this, guys? There we go. There we go, Kenny.
Wow.
So, if you saw earlier, Ohio State leads everyone in terms of national championship odds at plus 500, meaning if you bet $100, you'd win 500. K-State and Utah are the favorites for the Big 12 at plus 25,000. Kenny, I'll be honest, when looking at that, I love to see K-State at the top, but I thought it'd be lower than that. I'm not going to lie. I thought it'd be lower than that, Kenny.
Yeah, honestly, it's a good feeling to see the odds in K-State's favor as far as representing the Big 12. The Big 12 is never going to get its respect. And as Ohio State has basically given the blueprint of how to win, the college football playoff is to basically throw money at the problem and try to buy all the best players. Ohio State, they spent over, $20 million on their roster. I don't think, apart from maybe Arizona State, maybe, I don't even know what other school in the Big 12 has that kind of money to be able to throw around like that. I mean, a lot of these schools are just small schools. But either way, we're definitely the underdogs. Every school in the Big 12 is definitely the underdog, even though it shows K-State and Utah as, favorites. You can't count out Arizona State, can't count out Baylor. It's weird to see Utah up there given, the season they just put out recently. Because I honestly have BYU. I would swap BYU and Utah's spot in the odds, and I would put that as like the top four in that order, actually: K-State, BYU, Arizona State, and Baylor. I just think those would be the best teams going forward. Now Utah, obviously, they've got the brand name, they've got the very long the longevity of their coach Kyle Whittingham, and that program just in general has always been a solid program. But after what they showed, again, they're basically having to bring in a brand new quarterback, and that's a lot to ask for in a new season. But I do love K-State's odds, and this is a long-winded answer, but yeah, K-State, I think, with the year under Avery Johnson's belt, and I've said this multiple times already this year, that the year of K-State is 2025. I said this last year, sorry. And I honestly believe, and you think it's a crazy, crazy statement that I said, but I think Avery Johnson has the potential to be the best quarterback K-State has ever had, period. He's already on track to breaking all the passing records. And what's amazing is that he's not even a passing quarterback. He's a quarterback with crazy legs. And so I think get a little bit of size on him. And then he basically developed as a pocket passer this season, basically already breaking records. Like the sky's the limit with this guy. And if we get him for 2 years, it's going to probably be some of the best 2 years at K-State football, period. So I'm excited for it, and I'm here for it all the way. I also do think Colorado's a little high.
I was gonna ask, okay, so actually I'm gonna give my thoughts on it, and then I actually wanted to ask you 2 up and 2 down, because there's a couple that I think are too low and a couple that I think are too high. So yeah. my thoughts are, when looking at this, I love seeing K-State at the top. No surprise there at all. Not really surprised at all to see Arizona and Cincinnati at the bottom either. I thought West Virginia would be near the bottom as well. And honestly, if you can tell, this is very early. Obviously before the season. I mean, KU's way too high. I mean, they had the same odds as Iowa State, and BYU just, should have been in the playoff, right? So
Yeah.
There's a lot of teams that are probably a little too high, Colorado being one of them. They lost everyone. But I love seeing K-State at the top. I think this is more going off of name recognition, and then Arizona State being up there because of the CFP, what they did against Texas. So
who are the two that are too low for you that need to go up?
Okay, so I'm going to go with my two that should go up, and then I want to hear yours, and then I want to say two that are too high. So the ones that are too low, I think Oklahoma State is too low. I mean, it was one bad season in Stillwater for Mike Gundy. I think having the third worst odds is, I think that's crazy in my opinion. And then another one that is too low is obviously BYU. I think they should be number two. I think, like you said, I think Utah and BYU should flip flop in terms of who should win the title for next year, in terms of betting odds, at least. I would definitely rather bet BYU than Utah right now. What about you?
Well, the one for you want to go with your too high. I think you already kind of did though.
Yeah. So the two that are too high, I'm going to go
Utah. Yeah.
No, actually, I'm going to go Utah and then KU. I mean, I don't see any reason KU should be above BYU and Colorado. KU's losing everyone. I know they're bringing JD6 back. That guy can't. I mean, he can hardly finish a whole full season. They just didn't go. They didn't go to a bowl game this past year, right? And I just feel like that's way too high for them. I mean, there's no reason they should have better odds than BYU. So I'm going to go Utah and KU. What about what's your two up and two down?
Also, does KU even have a stadium next year? Is it going to be done by that time or no?
They say it's supposed to be done. They got new renders. Out, and it does look kind of cool. You can tell they're trying to make it look bigger than it actually is. They got a really small lower bowl and then an upper deck on it to make it look bigger than it is. Kind of like McLean Stadium down in Texas for Baylor. But yeah. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
It definitely needed to be done. I mean, KU's stadium was by far the worst stadium probably in the entire, definitely in the Big 12 and maybe even
and I've been there many times.
Yeah,
and I've been there many times, and it's trash. It was trash.
Yeah. So okay, I would say right off the gun, Texas Tech is too low. After the amount of hype that's going in to their transfer portal, the NIL that they've been pumping in. I mean, this is what I talked. Maybe Texas Tech is one of those schools that might have the kind of money for that because they were mentioning that one of their alumni is like a guy that like has an oil company or whatever, and it's like, oh well, that guy's probably loaded, and he basically funded all the the players that are coming in, this millions of dollars that are being poured into Texas Tech. I mean, so if now the thing is that just because you buy a lot of players doesn't mean it always works out. But we have seen a lot of success in that regard. I mean, look at Indiana, look at Ohio State. They put a lot of money in, and it just clicked, right? It just worked out for those schools. And so Texas Tech is sort of taking that approach, not really doing a development kind of approach like K-State or Baylor. So I think Texas Tech, if it works, right? If it works, I think Texas Tech has a lot more hype going into the season. And if I'm a betting man, I'm going to bet a little bit more higher for Texas Tech. I'd probably put them in that 35,000, kind of where KU is. And yeah, I would agree with you. KU is way too high. I think they just lost like everybody on their team. And then Utah is way too high. It's like, whoa, how are they number two after they just showed after the season they just put out? I mean, they were one of the worst teams. They were in the bottom half of the conference. And you could say, well, you know, they put all their eggs in one basket and that didn't work out. It's like, well, hey, that's a lot about coaching too, you know? So it's like, I have a lot of faith in Kyle Whittingham, and I do think you're correct about Oklahoma State being a little bit too low. Mike Gundy is a legendary coach, and it is one really bad season. It's weird that it was, you know, they went from being in the Big 12 title to bringing almost everybody back on their roster to put out a season like that with a 0-9 season. I mean, that's just wild to me. So I think Oklahoma State could definitely turn it around. I'm not sure how high their their record or how high their odds are going to be towards the end, I just don't think they're the third worst, kind of like what you said. So definitely agree. I do think BYU deserves to be higher. I mean, but if you got to pick the two, BYU's offense, the magic was pretty wild this last year. I don't know if they can replicate that every year. And so maybe BYU could possibly be the fourth best out of the K-State, Arizona, Baylor scenario, but we'll see, because again, a lot of even BYU fans this season were like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that we're the best, but I mean, they did get gypped. Everybody knows it for this season. They definitely belonged in the CFP. They definitely belonged. They definitely belonged there over SMU for sure. But hey, football seasons are, they swing all the time. The pendulum could be great one season, and then you bring, like, just like Oklahoma State. They were in the Big 12 championship game one year. They brought everybody back, and they didn't win a single conference game. So just because of the results that you had one season and then you retained a lot of players doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work in favor for you the next season. So I would just be cautious about that. And just based on the eye test, Baylor looks scary, Arizona State looks scary, and K-State looks scary. All the potential's there. So for all three of those schools, and BYU, their defense was phenomenal. I don't know how many players they retained on defense, but if they've retained a lot of players on defense, they're going to be a tough defensive team for sure. Offense, there was a lot left to be desired, but if they can, improve in that area as well, then they're going to be a good team as well. So, but definitely Oklahoma State needs to be higher. Texas Tech needs to be higher. KU needs to be lower, and Utah definitely needs to be lower for sure.